Most players rely too much on their teammates, but what if you can carry rounds on your own and make your team almost irrelevant? Today, I'm breaking down how to get so good in CS2 that your impact alone changes the game. I'm Louie, and in this video, we'll dive into the smart, selfish playstyle, taking control with aggressive duels in the safest spots like B apartments and underpass to dominate connector, all without depending on utility or calls from teammates. You'll learn the third eye method, a simple habit of glancing at your minimap every 5 seconds to catch flanks, rotations, and control key map areas like top boxes on Mirage. Timestamps are below if you want to jump to any section. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Now, the first thing that every one of you guys do that you need to stop doing is being on autopilot. And what I mean by this is, let's say that I am the A site anchor on Mirage. Someone that is autopiloting is simply just starting the round by mollying ramp, flashing over mid, and then just playing triple every single round. The reason they're doing this is because they're simply just on autopilot and they're just repeating their same sequence over and over again. Now, the reason why this is bad is because the T's will be able to recognize this pattern and they will eventually be able to exploit it, because if they know for 3 rounds in a row that you just mollied ramp and flashed over from triple, they're going to try to maybe swing on the last tick of this ramp molly, or maybe they try to find a gap behind your molly and kill you when you're trying to run away from triple. Now, the way to switch this up is by simply trying to mask your pattern. So at the start of the round, let's say 2 rounds in a row, I decided to molly ramp and flash over mid. Maybe the next round I decide to molly, I throw a molly over towards ramp, and then I just walk behind the molly trying to put some aggression into the T's. And what this does is that most of the T's will think that they know the pattern that's happening, and as soon as you swing ramp, they're going to be caught off guard. And then the next round, they're going to be cautious. They're going to realize that you are unpredictable. Now, something else you can do to remove autopiloting is taking aggression. So if you have this far right A spawn, by jumping into Palace and getting early information and then starting an early flank, or maybe you kill the A lurk and you just take this whole side of the map, that will also make you unpredictable as well. Now, something else you could do as well is, do the same exact nades and then play retake over here from top connector. Because if the T's think that they can abuse the pattern that you've been showing, when they come out A, they're going to be searching for you into sight because they are familiar with the pattern that you showed them by usually playing over here towards triple. And then when they're trying to swing and find you, you'll be able to blindside and also team up with your window and top con player to pretty much mow down anyone trying to swing into A site. Now, improving your adaptability is huge, because if you don't do this, you're basically on autopilot like I just talked about. So something on the T side that a lot of people fail to adapt to is if the CTs are playing aggressive or passive in mid. So if my teammates are constantly smoking window and they're smoking top mid, but the CTs just keep running up mid and just mowing us down, something that we need to be able to do is adapt. And some players are really bad at this, where they might just think like, yeah, let's just run out and try to kill these guys, and then all of a sudden flashes just rain over from A, and then your teammates are just dead because they try to challenge this. But being able to adapt will totally fix this mistake, because if you're able to just throw these smokes and keep the same pattern, but just sit here and wait with a couple of teammates for the CTs to push mid, you're going to be able to get these kills and then get all this mid space for free. So if you're able to recognize what is happening around the map and being able to have an easy counter for that, that is really big. Another example is over here towards B apps, where a lot of people try to take the game into their own hands by taking these duels. If you're someone that's just constantly sitting here jump spotting and getting bullied by this guy and wasting all your nades, and then he's able to walk out for free, that is not being adaptable. Something you should do is call for your opper to just simply post up on this guy that keeps on trying to take these duels and just punish him and shut him down, because once he knows that he's shut down the one time, he's not going to go for this again, because he's going to think that he's being countered and he can't use this space of the map anymore. So if you're able to recognize patterns and recognize where you might be able to abuse someone, or you might have any good counters, this will definitely improve your game, and especially your game sense, because you're going to start to develop how to recognize patterns and how to counter them. Now, before I get into the next tip, let me tell you about SkinsMonkey. Is a CS2 skins trading site marketplace that provides an instant way to get new skins. The favorite thing about SkinsMonkey is that I can trade skins that I no longer want and trade it for a skin that has equal value. If you use code LouisCS2, you get a $5 bonus on your first trade. And if you want to buy skins, you can get a 30% deposit bonus plus an extra 5% using my code. The link is down in the description. Thank you, SkinsMonkey, for sponsoring this video. Now, something that is very important is simplifying the process. And what I mean by that is breaking down the game into 3 basic pillars to improve, which is your aim, your movement, and your grenades. Understanding all these simple concepts in the game will simply help you improve. So something that you need to do is have a good aim routine, or just a basic warm-up routine where maybe you just hop into aimbots for 5 minutes before your games, and then maybe you do a little bit grenade deathmatch, which is where you just hop into a server and start throwing some random grenades. This will help you improve, because these are the basic fundamentals of the game that a lot of people struggle with. Because if you just go into a rank game without warming up at all, you're going to be swinging mid on Mirage and just whiffing on anyone that's trying to peek you, because you're not putting in the time to simplify the process on how to get better. So if you're able to understand, maybe your weak points are your movement, because whenever you swing window, you're not able to counter strafe fast enough on this window guy. So maybe you're just warming up your movement in aimbots where you're just counter strafing back and forth shooting at bots. Or maybe you notice that it's your grenades, and whenever you throw a grenade, you're just constantly missing them. Or maybe you're trying to smoke top connector and you're aiming all the way to the right and jump throwing a smoke. But if you take the time and simplify the process by just hopping in some of the maps you think you'll play and just refresh your mind on the grenades, where this one is the top con smoke, just make sure you know it and practice it so when you get in game, it's fresh in your mind and you're able to use it, instead of just totally forgetting that this kind of smoke even exists. Now, the pillars could change based on the type of player that you are, or maybe your game sense kind of struggles more than your aim. So maybe you want to dive into a demo before you play and get some fresh ideas to call inside of the round while you're playing your ranked games with some random people. Just find simple strats where maybe it's just a single A execute where you're just throwing right side smokes for your teammates, where you ask someone to drop you a smoke. You can smoke stairs and jungle and then flash them out A. Simple things like this, just simplifying executes, simplifying your routine, will elevate your gameplay, because it doesn't take that long to develop. It just takes about 10 minutes before you play to basically warm up and understand it and refresh your mind on what you need to do when you actually hopped into a ranked match. Now, this tip is something that I call the third eye method, and that is simply just using your third eye, which is your radar. The radar can give you so much information. Even though my webcam is blocking it, you guys should get the basic understanding of what I'm talking about. Now, the radar is going to show you exactly where your teammates are on the map. Now, the first thing that this will tell you on the T side is where you should be directing your team where to end the round. So if I'm over here in mid and I see most of my teammates, maybe I have one in connector and I'm sitting here holding his cat. I have two players in ramp and one in palace. A lot of times, a lot of noobs will have no idea what to do, and they'll all just walk out one by one like a vending machine and just give themselves to the CTs for free, and you'll basically just lose the round. But if you're able to look at your third eye, aka your radar, you're able to direct your team and just say, hey guys, let's go end A, and then you can just run up with your con teammate, and all of a sudden the pinch is happening. Even if your teammates are a little bit more spread out, where maybe you have one in palace, maybe you have a teammate in ramp, one's underpass, and then one's in upper B, you can still use the majority of the numbers that are towards A and just tell them like, hey guys, I'm gonna fake B, you guys go A, and then you just maybe just throw a flash in sight and try to take some aim duels, and then have them start to lurk up A because you're pulling some sort of rotations. Now, on the CT side, what makes this very important is that the radar is going to show you what is being held and what isn't. So about every 5 seconds, you should be glancing up at your radar, because this is going to tell you, especially if you're somewhere in like mid or maybe you're an A anchor, on what the gap is on the map. Because if you're here just playing on A, maybe you're playing this off angle and you have no idea where your teammates are, sometimes connector can be a huge gap and they can just walk up and kill you just by this little sliver here. But if you're playing this position and glancing at your radar every 5 seconds, you're able to notice that maybe connector is gapped, and then you can just back up and start to jump spot ticket without your teammates having to tell you anything. Even though communication is really important inside of Counter-Strike, the minimap is your third eye, which basically tells you everything that you need to know. So if you're able to constantly glance about every 5 seconds at your minimap like the pro players do, you'll notice that your game sense will elevate and you're able to almost control the game in a different way. Now, this tip pretty much basically explains on how you should be playing Mirage if you are a solo queue, and that is to play selfishly. And what I mean by that is, I don't want you guys to just bait your teammates running out mid, but try to take map control on spots that you can basically do it with one person. So a good example of this is connector on the T side, because at the start of the round, you can literally just flash yourself into underpass. Make sure that this is clear with the flash. You can come all the way up to connector and just throw connector nades, so then you can take connector all by yourself. And being able to identify places like this on the map are very important, especially over here towards B apps. This is the best place that you can take solo duels, because you get so much information just by walking up this area. Because if you hear this cat guy running out towards mid, you know you have a 1v1 on anyone playing B, and most of the time, just one tapping the jump spotter is a lot easier than you think it is. But something else that you can do if you are maybe a little bit too scared to take this duel is use some utility where you can throw a smoke off this wall. Maybe you want a Molotov towards Van, and you can create so much pressure just by looking at a duel. And even playing selfishly like this will cause so many rotations if you really understand on what is happening, because most of the time when nades like this happen, the CT on cat will come back to try to help the B player, which will open up space for your teammates in mid. So if you're able to recognize on places where you can take map control for free, or maybe just the best solo spots even on CT, like playing over here on A or playing towards connector, these are some of the best solo spots where you can play selfishly and not have to worry about any of your teammates.